We welcome Daniel Tillett of Race Oncology, who's with us via Zoom. Race Oncology is advancing a reformulated version of Bizantry, namely RC220, developed to treat the likes of myeloid leukemia while avoiding heart damage, which can be caused by other chemotherapies. Race Oncology trades under the ticker code RAC. Welcome to CEO Daniel Tillett.
Thank you.
Can you briefly explain what it is that Race Oncology has developed?
Thank you, Sonia. What we've done at Race is take an old drug that was very successful, developed originally in the 1980s, was in 1,500 patients, 50 clinical trials, worked really well, but it had a fundamental problem in the way that it could be delivered. And so it was dropped for sort of commercial reasons rather than clinical reasons. And so what we've done is we've picked that drug up, what's called reformulated, and solved the delivery problems. That does two things. It allows us to use it more widely. It also allows us to reset the patent clock. So obviously the original molecule is no longer in patent. That allows us. But that being able to reset the patent clock with a new formulation is a very successful strategy to take an old drug and basically make it into a new drug. And so that's sort of the one half of what we've done. The other half of what we've done is we've identified how best to use the drug. So one of the problems is the 1980s, we didn't really understand cancer very well. And so we didn't really know which cancer it was. In the old days, they just basically put it into patients and see which patients responded. Nowadays, we've got a lot of new science come through that can tell you which cancer will work, which indication will be best. And we've gone into the lab and identified that. So we've identified a really exciting opportunity using it as a combination of anti-cancer. It's a very good anti-cancer drug, but it also protects from the damage that other anti-cancer drugs cause to the heart. And that combination is a really unique combination that sort of creates an immediate market for that drug.
Well, what could the compound RC220 really mean for the cancer patient? What type of cancers could this assist in treating?
This is a great advantage. What it does is it protects from the types of cancers, a very wide range, about 20 different cancers these drugs are used in. They're called anthracyclines. They've been around for about 70 years now. They're very effective, but they're very dangerous, and they cause a lot of long-term health implications. And we can use our drug to not only better treat the cancer, but also protect against that damage, particularly to the heart. Unfortunately, if you damage the heart, it just doesn't recover. It's any damage that you have it for life. And that catches up with patients, particularly as they're living longer these days. And, they recover from cancer, or they, live with the cancer, but they, end up with heart disease. And so that combination is a really nice combination because they're so widely used. One of the difficulties with making a new drug is you've got to kind of create a market for that drug. We already have a very large market for that drug all around the world. Over 20 million doses of these anthracyclines are used every year. And so we can slot straight into that existing market that's already there. It also changes the risk profile. Mark really touched on this, which is, the probability of a drug making it to market from early stage is very low. In oncology, it's 3%. But we're taking an old drug, fixing the formulation issues, and the probability of success there is much higher because it's already been all the way through the approval, the development process. And so that, from an investment perspective, that's what you want.
Well, given that, what stage are you at now with the approvals process, and how's everything going for Race Oncology?
This is interesting. The drug itself has been all the way through to approval, so it was just dropped commercially. But the reformulation, we've had to go back. Unfortunately, the regulators like the FDA consider a reformulation a new drug, even though it's the same old drug, just in a new form. You have to take that through the phase 1-2 process. So we're about to undertake the first phase 1 in the next few months for the new reformulation. It's been quite a effort to go through and remanufacture to GMP standards, do all the GLP toxicology studies that are required for an IND and all the rest of this. So, but we've crossed that barrier, but it gives us, the opportunity to sort of accelerate through that process. We know the safe doses, we know the side effect profile, we know pretty much all that you would want to know up front about a drug in patients before we even begin treating the first patient.
So, Daniel, what do you see the timeline looking like moving forwards?
This is always an incredibly hard question to answer. It's definitely several years, but because we have such a unique and unusual drug, we have the ability for kind of an accelerated approval process. It solves a problem that the regulators around the world have been very interested in. The FDA has created projects like Project Optimus, and that sort of underlies making cancer treatment not only just focusing entirely on the cancer, but looking holistically at the patient outcome. So, and not just oncologists and clinicians are very prone to just focusing specifically on their area of expertise and not looking at what other effects they might have on the patient. And so the side effects from treatment have become a huge area of concern for the regulators, for clinicians, for payers around the world. They want to see treatments not only be effective, but also be much safer than they have been to date. So we think there's a lot of interest, and we have had a lot of interest from regulators to date around what we're trying to do, which gives us the ability to potentially accelerate and come to market much sooner than maybe would be expected. So it creates a great opportunity there. But yeah, it's a slow process, unfortunately.
Well, given that the time that the approvals process takes, is there always a bit of a concern in the background that a competitor could beat you to it, or do patents protect you from that?
We have new patents around the formulation, which is really nice. So we don't start. One of the problems with the patent process is it takes so long to get to the clinic that you might be 7 or 8 years of your patent life, which is typically 20 years before you've even treated the first patient. So we were able to reset the patent clock. So we've got 20 years basically ahead of us. Lots of people have tried to make a drug like this. We didn't set out to make the drug. We just discovered that the drug had this property. There's been lots of drugs that will protect the heart from the damage of these drugs. There's probably a couple of hundred out there. Some of them are even on the market, but none of them are used at all in the clinic. And it's for a whole bunch of complicated regulatory and clinical reasons. In order for a drug like this to work, it has to both be protective of the heart and also treat the cancer as well at the same time. And that's a very difficult thing to do, to create something that's both protective and damaging at the same time, but just differently in different parts of the body. And it's not very easy to come up with a drug like that. So no one's been able to come up with a drug like ours. So it's possible, but to date, nobody has.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for your insights there.